and starting out right away on a brief orientation walk. Get the feel of this fascinating city. And one of the first things we always love to do is have some gelato, the Italian ice cream, thick, rich, and buttery. You go in and get a small, a medium, or a large cone. And one of our favorite places to do this is at Gelato's, a real landmark in Rome. It's located in the heart of the old town. Just follow the trail of ice cream cones when you're in the neighborhood and you'll soon arrive at Gelato's. And it's just around the corner from the Pantheon. On our walking tours, we always stop and have a look around and pay particular attention to the important historic landmarks like the Pantheon. And your Hawaii escort will give you a little talk about each of these important landmarks. It's nice to have a little guidance when you're walking around in the cities so you can understand what you're looking at. Here we're peeking in the front door of the beautiful building of the Pantheon, 2,000 years old and still standing. We've brought you inside the Pantheon before in World Traveler, so in this show we're just taking a peek inside. This show presents highlights. It's a 1-hour summary of the best highlights of Europe. The water is safe to drink, of course, and even from the street fountains, but there's a certain technique. Observe the finger on the bottom of the spout, and then water shoots out a little hole on the top of the spout. So it's clean and hygienic, and for water fountains, none tops the Trevi Fountain. Toss your coin over the shoulder and you'll come back to Rome and get your wish. Rome, the city of sidewalk cafes. The weather is pleasant here for at least half the year. You can sit outdoors and be entertained and take in the great historic sites. We always have a city tour with a local guide who will bring us around in our Hawaii Geographic Society trips. And here you can imagine where we are. This has to be the greatest building in the world, still standing from classical antiquity. The Roman Colosseum, still guarded by the lions. St. Paul outside the wall is one of several most important basilica churches in Rome. It's modeled on the ancient Roman type of building that was called the basilica. Back in the year 100 AD, 200 AD, these structures were used by the Romans as meeting halls and later became adapted by the Christians as churches. One of the most perfect cloisters you'll find in Europe is right here at St. Paul outside the walls. So when you visit the church, be absolutely sure to go outside and visit the cloister. It's original, it's a medieval structure, beautiful columns, twisted spiral columns inlaid with gold mosaic tiles. The greatest church in the world, of course, is St. Peter's. None can compare to this massive, colossal building, perhaps the most beautiful building in the world. And if you're there on a Wednesday morning, you might be lucky enough, as we were, to see the Pope give one of his weekly blessings right out front in the main courtyard. Driving past Bernini's monumental colonnade, we'll return to St. Peter's in just a few minutes and have a look inside. But first we're going to tour the Vatican Museum. We always like to spend several hours inside this beautiful museum, the Belvedere Torso. Michelangelo said, "I am a student of the torso." A statue from 2,500 years ago inspired the great artists of the Renaissance, leading up to the culmination, perhaps, of the greatest event in Western art history, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, painted single-handedly by Michelangelo over a 2-year period. And then much later in his career, he did the wall at the end of the chapel, the Last Judgment.
It's got everything in it.
St. Peter's.
And it says Rome. Oh, St. Peter's.
This is what we came for.
Absolutely.
There's several very good gift shops in the Vatican complex. You'll find this one just between St. Peter's and the Vatican Museum. By the way, there is a back door that comes out of the Sistine Chapel and leads you right into St. Peter's. So look for that. It'll save you about a 1-hour walk if you were to go from the front of the Sistine Chapel out the front of the Vatican Museum and walk all the way around to St. Peter's. you'll be exhausted. But there's this secret back door out of the Sistine Chapel that'll bring you right here into St. Peter's. As we wander around, we spend about an hour inside this church. Then we jump on the bus for our next adventure. There's a bus stop right in front of St. Peter's that will take you on bus 64 up to Piazza Venezia. Or if you're heading more to the old part of Rome, up the Corso as we are, you walk around the corner about a half a mile to another bus stop. You validate your ticket first before you ride, and the buses will get you around Rome in no time at all. Then we're back on our feet for another little walking tour. This is the neighborhood behind our hotel between the Corso and the Spanish Steps, and there's a number of nice little bars.
Salute! Salute! This will be shown on national television, though.
Special toast there to celebrate Jeannie's birthday. And we continue our strolls. There's many restaurants in this neighborhood, many stores. Heading past the Largo Argentina. This is a sanctuary in the middle of the city for hundreds of wild cats. Locals come around and feed them every day. And now I'm going to take you on a walking tour through one of my favorite parts of Rome.
We're now walking into what's called the Ghetto. Now that doesn't mean it's a slum. It's the old Jewish neighborhood. And there's some cute little piazzas, there's restaurants, there's fountains. And it's a charming place to walk. Oh, and then there's some of these little back alleyways that are really narrow and quiet and characteristic, very old, very historic. Maybe these buildings are about 500 years old. Little archways across. We've been looking at San Carlo ai Cardinale, which is one of the more interesting churches in the city, done in the Counter-Reformation style. And there's a big dome. As you can see, it's a very spectacular Baroque dome. Whoa! We're walking along on one of my favorite streets here in Rome. It's the Via Giubilari. Has a lot of clothing stores, there's little cafes. It's the real heart of Rome. Rome for the Romans. Very few tourists walking along in this neighborhood. And there's a lot of good deals to be had in the jackets and shirts, cotton clothing, all kinds of good places here. And there's a lot of shops here that you'd enjoy, and particularly the Campo dei Fiori. This is a fruit and vegetable market right in the heart of Rome. Let's go take a look. This is a spectacular fruit and vegetable market, and this is where all the locals shop. They buy their produce for the day. They get their radicchio and their arugula, get their olives, bananas. It's a great place for the tourists to stop by too, see some local color, as well as get some fruits for the day, maybe some nuts, some spices to take home with you. And you're really going to have fun here at the Campo dei Fiori.
Fresh green olives are one of many unique treats that you'll find here at the Campo dei Fiori. They are delicious. They're just lightly brined. It's not like any olives that you could buy in a jar or a can. This is the real thing.
You're going to be spitting pits all day.
It's a good price.
Very. What did you think of this marketplace?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Terrific. We enjoyed the coffee.
Earthy and smelly and fantastic and fun.
Anybody else? What did you think of it?
Oh, I loved it. I think all the fruits and vegetables were so fresh. They were beautiful.
And the olives are great. Got to have some olives here.
Oh yeah, those green olives.
Yeah, green
But
olives.
don't buy a kilo.
It's too much. Anybody else? Reactions to the marketplace?
It's amazing. That's all I can say. The way people shop around here. I mean, it's just you don't see it anywhere else.
Really?
Really.
Sure. little bit like Chinatown.
Yeah.
Italian.
Fruits are delicious. And olives.
Yeah, but it's not as good. They don't have all the variety we have here. You know, there's fantastic variety. You know?
But however, I had a very fresh vegetable. I go every Saturday afternoon.
Hey, that's nice. That's a good store. How much was it?
35.
35,000 lira?
Yeah.
How much is that? $24.
That's not bad.
Nice. That's pretty. Anybody? Via Giulia, Renaissance Road, Renaissance Highway through the heart of the city. Inside there's courtyards. You can look in and take a peek from the street and see the courtyards and how the apartments wrap around. Beautiful courtyards with gates and gardens. And today it's residences. People living up there, and almost all of these apartments are occupied. Prime real estate. And the little cross streets in this neighborhood are really quite fascinating too. There's art galleries, a lot of antique shops, little restaurants. When you see an umbrella, you know it's a restaurant. Yeah, well, we're in the shadows too. When you're walking on these streets, you can just walk in the shade if you want. So even in the summertime, you know, it's really quite pleasant when you're in the shade like this. Happens every time. We're approaching now the Piazza Navona, right on Corso Vittorio Emanuele II.
We've shown you Piazza Navona in great detail in other episodes of World Traveler. In today's show, we're presenting highlights of Europe, so we'll just take a quick peek at Filippo Neri's church and move on.
Now we're walking along Via dei Banchi Nuovi. This is the old Wall Street of Rome, and nowadays it's just a narrow, characteristic alley that's got a lot of antique shops and furniture restoration stores. There's some cafes here and there. And here's my friend who I photograph every time on World Traveler, and he's still out here working. These men are following a tradition of working outdoors in the open air in front of their small shop that's been going on in Rome for about 2,000 years. You see this kind of sight in the back streets of Rome quite often, the furniture restoration shops and the narrow alleyways and the trucks coming through. It's really a lively and vital part of the city. And it's a place that we always stop in our walks on World Traveler to have a look at it.
Continuing a few blocks along Via dei Banchi Nuovi will lead you right to a spectacular view of St. Peter's from the Ponte Sant'Angelo. Looking across the Tiber River to the Vatican and Hadrian's tomb, this always makes a great photo op for our group picture. What we'll do is everybody puts their camera down on the pavement in front of the group, and a volunteer takes turns shooting us all with each camera. And then at the end, you've got to find your own camera and get it back, and that way everybody has a group shot inside their camera. You're watching Hawaii Geographic Society's Tour of Europe.
Now we're walking along Via dei Cardinale, which is another one of the great streets of old Rome. Has a lot of antique shops and art galleries. Not too many cars, but there's a few.
Passing the Piazza della Rotonda to Capodoro, one of the great coffee shops in the city, for some granita. This is a espresso frozen slush with heavy whipped cream, and it'll really kick in and get you going for an afternoon of energetic activities. A combination of that caffeine and sugar rush will keep you going for hours. Now we're just going to take a stroll through the streets of the city and do some people watching, which is always one of our favorite activities when we're traveling in Europe. Checking out the locals, we're walking on the Via del Corso, which is the street that our hotel is located on. Very convenient spot to check out the people. Italians are dedicated to the art of being beautiful. And one of the places it's on prime display is what's called the Passeggiata, just out for a stroll in the late afternoon, about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, after work, a little bit of late shopping, have a coffee, have a drink before dinner, before going out for the evening. Just take a late afternoon stroll. This is photographed at the end of September, and it's a time when school hasn't quite yet started and the summer vacation is over. So everybody is back in town. Everybody's here. All these people are mostly local Romans. And one of the best spots for seeing this display is on the Via del Corso.
Via della Croce is one of the more interesting side streets in Rome. It's lined with beautiful shops, and there's interesting people walking by all the time. And there's some cafes, there's a wine bar, and it's just a great place to hang out. Right in the center of Rome, we're just off the Via del Corso.
There's a network of these pleasant side streets that connect the Corso with the Spanish Steps, including Via Condotti, Via Vittoria, Via della Croce, Via della Carrozze. There's our hotel, the Plaza, right in the middle of it all on the Corso. And this activity extends all the way down to Piazza del Popolo. So you might stroll along Via de Babuino or Via di Ripetta, and then stroll back up along the Corso. You could spend hours in this neighborhood just wandering around. Watch out for the scooters, though. Traffic is a little crazy in Rome, but at least in this neighborhood it's mostly pedestrians, so it's quite safe and friendly. Some other popular spots where the people hang out are the Trevi Fountain in the evening and Piazza Navona, which we'll be seeing shortly after we go out to dinner. And of course the Spanish Steps, which are located just nearby. Now it's time to hop in a taxi and head across town to one of our favorite restaurants, passing the monument to Victor Emmanuel on the Piazza Venezia, driving along Corso Vittorio Emanuele II on our way to Ile Cardinale. We've taken you in this little restaurant before. It's a great spot for a fine gourmet deal. Look at this salad. It's a truffle salad with generous slices of white truffles and Parmesan cheese, and followed by several more courses of delicious food and wines. Ile Cardinale. It's located in the old part of town near Piazza Navona. You can just have the taxi driver drop you off at Piazza Navona and walk over, and there your host Johnny will treat you to a fine meal. We're going to walk home from the restaurant tonight. It's only about a mile back to the hotel, a very pleasant stroll, or you can just have them call a taxi. But the walk will take you through these lively evening streets and the Piazza Navona. At night in the summer, everybody's out in Rome partying. It's just a natural festival in the streets that goes for block after block after block. So it's very safe. It's a lot of fun. You can have your portrait sketched. You can buy an original watercolor at a reasonable price from one of the artists. Enjoy the fountains at the Piazza Navona. Be entertained by musicians at a street cafe. And then it's time to go.